Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to cover a third part of book combos that I have. This one's going to delve a little bit into, it's going to be a mix. It's going to be a mix. Here we go. First one I've got is The Great Gatsby, right? By F. Scott Fitzgerald, set in the 1920s. I have the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition, of course. What else? And my companion book that I have with this is a graphic novel version of it. And this is published by Scribner. And it was illustrated by Aya Morton, and the text was adapted by Fred Fordham. I love the way this was illustrated, by the way. This style, I can't explain why. But this is the graphic novel, how it looks like on the inside. I want to see if I can find anything really cool on here. I love how in certain parts of the graphic novel, the colors become very bright, as if someone's, opened the windows. And other parts, they get kind of dark and kind of, that's the cool thing about the graphic novels, how as the mood changes, etc., the colors as well start to set that mood as well. I've enjoyed that. Then we have Jane Eyre, another Gothic novel. This one is the Penguin Classics Deluxe, and if you'll notice, the style is a very Gothic looking sort of illustration. Look at that on the back. And of course, your French claps. This one has the image of the house, and that's the same on both front and back. And I also got a graphic novel version by Sterling. There we go, you see that. And this is just, it's cool. It's a thinner book. This is, and the mood, you'll notice, the colors, they're very toned down with the browns and the plums, etc. Another example of the illustrations. So that's this combo. So I've got these two. Then I have the next one, which is Pride and Prejudice. This was the very first Pride and Prejudice that I got. And I got this when I was at a community college, and I had my little tabs in there and my little notes, whatever. And this is the annotated Pride and Prejudice. I'm glad I got this, because this is one of, I believe this was the first classic I ever read. The language was so different for me, and some of the terms, the terminology that was being used was just so foreign to me. And the annotations in this book really helped me to better understand the story. And just so you know, FYI, I think I had to read this 2 or 3 times before I finally started to understand and get the flow, and it was happening much easier for me. So this book has a lot of sentimental value for me. And this one is published by Anchor Books. All right. And the graphic novel that I got that goes with this is here. There are quite a few actually for Pride and Prejudice. This just happens to be one of them that I've got. This is published by Self-Made Hero. This is an example of the illustrations on the inside. I like the colors. Here's a little brighter setting. And you see the letters that they've written. You see the whole letter in there. I have another addition to the Pride and Prejudice. I could show that to you really quick. Now, I can't find it. Yeah, I do. It's this, and I keep this in the plastic wrapper, but this has samples of letters inside that are mentioned in the book itself that are written to each other, and they're beautiful penmanship. But one day I'll open this and I'll go through all the contents of it. But if you want to take a peek at it, there's a booktuber called Beautiful Books, and she goes through this series. This is published by Chronicle Books, and I don't know what year this was, but she goes into the contents of this and everything, and it's very well done. All right, so now I'm going to go into some children's books, middle grade. So, City of Ember. I started with the graphic novel, City of Ember. And I think I remember listening to this book on Audible several years ago. I'm a big Audible listener. It's, when I'm driving to school and back or work and back, of course, when you're taking a long trip, I love listening to audiobooks. I've done a lot of reading that way, not just with a book in hand, but also while multitasking and doing other things. And I think I prefer to listen to fiction on Audible. Anything that requires more concentration, I personally miss a lot. So I try to focus just on fiction. I recently finished listening to Fairy Tale by Stephen King on Audible, and it was excellent. I enjoyed the story. Sure, I could have read it, but fiction is easier to listen to than, something that's a little more in-depth. And City of Ember is what I listened to at that time. I recently just got the original book because I needed something to go with the graphic novel. Isn't that cool how they illustrated that? I like the light bulb. Oh, I just love the illustration. And this is adapted by Dallas Middaugh and art by Nicholas Asker. And let me show you. So you see it's dark. It's always dark because in the City of Ember they live underground. And the story setting, they're slowly running out of supplies and life's getting harder. So you have these two children deciding that they're going to step out of their comfort zone and see if they can't find a solution to things. It's a really cool story. And there's also a sequel to it, which, get this, I found in my college library because we have a cart there where you can leave a book and take a book. And that's such a dangerous place, that section of the foyer. They've just got to move it because I just keep coming home with stuff. So I have the sequel, The People of Sparks. Yay. So this is the second book of Ember. I would be reading that eventually. And then the next one I've got is A Wrinkle in Time. I read A Wrinkle in Time originally, I'm going to say 10 plus years ago when I was on a middle school binge again, and I was collecting these books, but I had moved a few times since then and I couldn't find my original book. So I just purchased this one fairly recently. So I have my original. To go with what I already had was my graphic novel of A Wrinkle in Time. And this one is purchased by Square, you know what? I can't read it. Square Fish, it looks like what it says. Yeah, Square Fish. And it was adapted and illustrated by Hope Larson. So let me show you some of these are very, look at the illustrations. They look like they take place in a sort of alternate world. That's the impression that I get from those types of illustrations, that things don't look quite as solid or as tangible as they would here in our world. And then here's some other illustrations. This is inside one of the buildings in that alternate world. Okay, so Madeleine L'Engle, she's the original author of A Wrinkle in Time. I forgot to mention that. And for the City of Ember, it's Jean Duprow. Forgive me if I mispronounce it. Of course, Pride and Prejudice is Jane Austen. Oh, I've got one more. All right. There's a book that's just been released, and it really intrigued me because it has to deal with, overcoming difficulties. And this was an immigrant experience, which of course I'm interested in. It's just all related to the stuff that I study. And it's a book entitled Solito. And it's about a Guatemalan youth who traveled 4,000 miles by himself in the company of the coyotes and other people who were traveling as well. And he finally made it to the United States. And he describes the difference from when he was living there in Guatemala with his grandparents and traveling the 4,000 miles, and then when he arrives to the United States to be with his parents, how different his life was, how much freer he felt when he was in Guatemala, and how constricted he felt when he came to the United States. Well, I needed to see if they had this book in Spanish because the author, although now, of course, he's been here since he was 9 years old, so now his primary language is no longer Spanish, but English. I just wanted to know if he wrote this in Spanish as well, if there was a Spanish edition, and there was. And this is the Spanish edition, of course, same title because it's in Spanish. And the Spanish edition is in paperback form. They didn't have a hardbound. So these are my companion books for Solito. I cannot wait to start reading this. I really am looking forward to it. It's by Javier Zamora, and it is published by Hogarth Press. That's the English one. And the Spanish one is published by Vintage Español. So there we go. All right, everybody. That was brief, that was quick, that was fun. Push the like and the subscribe button, and I'm happy to talk to you and have these times together. And take care, everybody, and stay healthy. Bye-bye.